happy belated birthday to you, sir, and appreciate you being on the program. Obviously, want to talk a lot about the guys who caught passes on G-Day. I thought from that standpoint, it was actually a really good show on Saturday. Very entertaining to see Georgia get so many guys involved. I guess let me begin, though, with the guy that you probably know the best of all, and that's Eric Gilbert. The touchdowns that he scores, the weapon that he proved to be in the red zone, really echoing the praise that he, I think, justifiably gotten during spring practice. You'd seen it yourself behind closed doors. You'd certainly worked with him some here recently, so you had a glimpse of that yourself. But for all of us to get a chance to see it on Saturday on TV, those of us lucky enough to be in the stadium, what did you make of the show that Gilbert put on there for the G-Day crowd?
Well, I was very happy, just not about his performance. I was just happy that he's back and being able to perform and do what he loves to do in front of a crowd. I think the Georgia faithful has been anticipating just to see what he looked like in person. I think he showed a small glimpse of what he could bring to the Georgia offense.
Yeah, I think that's indeed the case. And, we've talked about this before, Terrence, this is a guy that, on a show like this, we've been hyping now for a number of years. And, as a high school recruit, it seemed like while George was in the mix, he just wanted to go try his hand somewhere else for a while. And then as a transfer, it appeared that he might go to Florida and not go to Georgia, or then he steps away from football. And, maybe there were some Georgia fans who were somewhere along the way just kind of decided that whatever conversation was going to take place regarding Gilbert in Georgia, it just wasn't really real or just not really going to ever come to fruition. But I think you saw on Saturday that the conversation that you and I have been having on the show we've been having about Gilbert, it very much is real. And you should look forward to the upcoming season. On the potential list of playmakers there for Georgia, I think you have to consider Gilbert a big part of that conversation. Obviously, doing it against a team in a different color uniform is different than doing it in a G-Day situation. But this is a guy who, showed you once again that he's got a real nose for the football. And as you start to think about, who can make an offensive impact for Georgia in 2022, Gilbert's got to be on that list, doesn't he?
Oh, most definitely. I think he's a guy that, just put this in perspective, B.A. He has not played a live competitive football game in a year and a half, and he goes out and put up that performance. So just imagine with a continued learning of offense, with a continued spring, summer practice, fall camp, I think he's going to be ready. And I think Georgia's going to have to find ways to get him the ball along with Brock and all the other playmakers. He's just another tool in the tool shed that Monken has the ability to find ways to get the football in. Just think about it. He's been out and haven't played a competitive football game in a year and a half. And to go out and perform the way he did, that just shows you everything that was reading, everything that we spoke about is true.
Yep.
I kidded with him. Reese, I haven't had a chance to talk to him, but I talked to his mom, Reese, and I was like, his pass catching looked great, but it was one play I've seen him trying to block Jalen Carter, and it didn't go well. But it don't go well with a lot of people when he's trying to block Jalen Carter. So just that one thing that I would kid with him about when I talked to him. But overall, man, I was just pleased with his performance.
I think that's really great. One more thing on this, I want to talk about some other guys that had big days there on Saturday. I say this half kiddingly, but also half seriously, that there still seems to be some confusion about how Gilbert pronounces his first name. Clearly, Georgia calls him Arik. That's what the pronunciation guide online says. That's what Kirby, I think, calls him. The PA announcer calls him Arik. And yet, I still hear from people from time to time who say, "Well, actually, no, it's Eric. It's Eric. It's not Arik." Even though Georgia kind of uses more of the Arik pronunciation. What does he prefer to be called? Is it Eric or is it Arik?
Well, his mom called him Arik.
Okay.
So we like to get her on the show so she could clear up all this skepticism of how his pronunciation one day, but his mom pronounced it Eric.
Well, if his mom says Eric, then that's what we're going to be saying there as well, because we want to keep her happy for sure. Mama has to always be happy. So around here, we're going to make sure we do all that. And thanks for giving us some clarification there on that. Other things that I thought really funny, or not funny, but fun on Saturday, Dominic Blaylock coming back from injury, catching a lot of balls. And you've told us before just how much you are rooting for him, because anytime you go through that long of an injury recovery, it just takes a toll on you emotionally, psychologically. And yet in Blaylock's case, he seems to have been steadfastly dedicated to himself the entire time there, and it seems to be paying off. That's another guy, Terrence, I have to consider as a real weapon for Georgia. I don't know what I thought he might be doing this spring, just given the fact that he'd been through so much. But, boy, I sure did like what I saw from him on Saturday.
Oh, most definitely. He's a guy that I've known for a while. I've been fascinated with this guy since he was at Walton High School, and now he came into Georgia wearing my number 8.
Yeah,
had a fantastic freshman year. Unfortunately, the last 2 years he's been riddled with injuries. Confidence was shaking a little bit, trying to get confidence back in that knee and both knees. So now this performance, I think is just going to take another step toward bringing back the old Dom that we saw as a freshman. And I think with losing Jermaine, I think this is the guy that could get some of the sting off losing Jermaine, because this guy is, to me, could be the second or third best receiver we have, just in the totality of the position, with being able to run routes, being able to catch in traffic, being able to run after the catch. That's all the things we saw as a freshman. Now he's much older, much wiser, and understands the college game. So I think he's going to have a big year in the rotation. We have a lot. I don't know what the rotation would be, but if he gets his opportunity, he will be a guy that helps us win games.
And I'd put, Kearis Jackson in that category a little bit. This guy who played for Georgia a year ago certainly did a lot of special team stuff, but as a receiver, he didn't do much in that regard, and injury was, kind of the, thought to be the reason why. Of course, in 2020, he had, back-to-back 100-yard receiving games really early in the year, proved himself to be a weapon there at the time. That's another guy coming back from injury here that I think you have to put in the category of, wow, I think Kearis is one of those guys that can also be a pretty big factor for Georgia this year, too. And I know that's a guy you know very well.
Oh, most definitely. Kearis, he played hurt last year a lot. He had knee surgery and in the off season and really didn't gain his explosions back to the end of the season. Now, if you saw him in the spring game, you saw the old Kearis. You saw him catching a deep over route and about a 30-yard game. You saw him work the middle of the field and got hit pretty good. Would have been a helmet to helmet, but he held on. That's what he does. That's what he do. He works the middle of the field. He works the hatchet. And he's one of those guys that is not afraid of contact. That's one of those Peach County, Middle Georgia kids that I'm always going to be in favor of. I'm from Middle Georgia. We just tough football players, and that's what he is. And he is the bona fide leader of that group. So I expect him to go out and be the 2019 Kearis, 2020 Kearis that we saw, then the 2021 Kearis.
There was also Oscar Delp. And, listen, one of the things I try to be on guard against, Terrence, is anytime a narrative just seems a little too perfect. And, as a recruit, there was a lot of discussion of, Delp could be the next Brock Bowers for Georgia. This is a guy that's coming to Georgia because of the success that Bowers had and kind of envisioned himself in a similar role. And I'm always, careful to jump into something like that too quickly, because college is hard. And when you make that transition, there's oftentimes some growing pains. And listen, I'm by nowhere near ready to say, Delp's going to go out there and have the same level of success that Brock Bowers had, because that's a very high bar just given how good Bowers was a year ago. But Delp was probably more comfortable on Saturday than I would typically expect a incoming true freshman early enrollee to be in a situation like that. Very easily getting open, very easily catching the football, targeted a ton there. He's only a freshman, and Georgia's very deep at tight end. But, man, it seems like you got to try to find a role for Oscar Delp, too, based on what you saw on Saturday.
Oh, most definitely. Would I say that he could go out and do the exact same thing that Brock did last season? I wouldn't go that far. But would he be a special piece of the offense if he was the main target? Yes. He's that special of an athlete. Would he get the opportunity to show his talent this year? But with Eric, with Oscar, with Darnell, he has three good guys in front of him. But I just think Georgia has to find a role for him. Is that, special teams, is that 14 package, that 4 tight, he has to have a role because he's that special of a talent. I don't think Georgia really would see that talent for about another year when that room becomes his. Right now, that room is just so deep that he's going to just be stuck behind some really, really talented guys, but he is and showcase his talent on Saturday.
Something else from Saturday, and this is just a moment, man, it does kind of remind you of what might be in store for Georgia this season, and it's something you and I have talked about before. Arian Smith gets open on a long, deep route, really using his speed just to kind of run past the secondary there. And for all that Georgia has had at receiver, and, it's had kind of a lot, at times the last couple of years, that blazing speedster hasn't always been what Georgia's had. Arians dealt with his share of injuries. But when he was healthy on Saturday and doing what he did, I think it is a reminder. I think you and I even maybe talked about this last week, that all of a sudden now you've got other receivers who have an opportunity to play off that speed, to allow Arian to take the top off a defense while they kind of work underneath. And Kirby even kind of addressed that he's got that elite skill that they got to try to find a way to cultivate, and he's got to cultivate the rest of his skill set around that. But not everybody has that. God just gave this in unequal measure to certain folks, and Arian's got more of it than most. And Georgia using that speed, I'd say Chandler Smith's kind of that same category, although we didn't see him on Saturday. But Georgia's got more speed to work with in the wide receiver room because of these two Smiths than what it's had in previous years. And it is fun to consider the kind of impact that could make on the Georgia offense.
Most definitely. When you have a guy that's truly a 10-flat, 100-meter guy, but is a football player. Arian Smith is not a track guy that's playing football. He's a football guy that can run track, which he does for Georgia as well. With that speed, he has an opportunity to affect defenses in a way without even touching the football. It opens up the run game. It opens up the pass game for everyone else. And if you don't respect that, then we have the ability to throw the ball downfield. But we have to utilize what God has given him. Is that his straight speed. And once teams start really to respect that, if you don't put another safety over the top, we will take a chance and throw him the football. And if he catches a few like he did Saturday, that just opened up the offense tremendously. Underneath pass catching, just not bringing that 8th guy in the box, that safety have to stay deep. So it just opened up the offense. And like you said, Chandler Smith is another guy once he gets completely healthy. If just imagine you just put those two guys on the field at one time just for a special package, just run deep to open up, you can really see a special offense. And Arian, I think, is really going to have a big year if he can stay healthy. And I'm going to put it out there right now that he will stay healthy this year.
It's great to